So let's kick into gear with 5S. Why does disorganization lead to stress and frustration? Clutter, disorganization, and missing information play a significant role in stress and frustration. Disorganized workspaces leave us feeling anxious and overwhelmed, yet clutter is rarely recognized as a source of stress in our lives.
So how does disorganization lead to so much stress? Well, it distracts us by drawing our attention away from what our focus should be on. It constantly signals our brain that work isn't done. It's more difficult to get in the zone, get on a roll, relax physically and mentally, and we're never sure what it's going to take to get through to the bottom of that pile. It frustrates us by preventing us from locating what we need quickly. Fortunately, unlike other sources of stress in our lives, clutter is one of the easiest stressors to fix.
The problem with being surrounded by disorganization is that familiarity breeds blindness. It's scientific. Just like when we cook fish, your nose's physical response normalizes the new smells. You get used to the fishy smell, and your brain learns to ignore it. Then your guests arrive and smell only fish. Overwhelmed by the fishy smell, they can't help but to judge you for it. Think about this. How long have you worked in your current work area? How long since you've taken a look at the various places where things get stored? Can you access everything easily? And do you even know what there is? Because if you have forgotten you have something, you might as well not own it, hey? Would new people to the work area know where to find things, where to put things back, how to operate equipment, when to take action?
We can all come up with reasons why it's hard to become organized and to stay organized. Some of the reasons that we have heard most often are, we don't know how. It's not always intuitive. We have to clean up first. We don't have the right tools. We're way too busy. And it never stays that way. Just like with all projects, it's never the perfect time to get organized. There's never a right time. We have to make the time.
5S is based on the idea that to have a productive workplace, it must be clean, well-organized, and well-maintained space. 5S is simple but powerful. It makes the workplace a better place to be. Make no mistake, we have to learn how to do it. It does not always come naturally, or at least not naturally enough. Implementing the 5S method means cleaning up and organizing the workplace in its existing configuration, and is typically the first lean method that organizations implement.
A typical 5S implementation would result in the organization of tools and materials into labeled and color-coded storage locations, as well as kits that contain just what's needed to perform a task. The 5 S's are sort, shine, set in order, standardize, and sustain. Safety is the honorary 6th S. You'll sometimes see 6S instead of 5S to highlight safety. In 5S, safety is an integral part of each of the 5 S's, which are all focused on efficiency, effectiveness, and safety. The first 3 S's, sort, shine, and set in order, are all about housekeeping, efficiency, and quality. The last 2, standardize and sustain, are about creating a culture of discipline to make sure that the first 3 S's don't deteriorate.
Before we start a 5S implementation, we have to identify the process or location for the 5S. It can be a digital or a physical location. We start by defining the start and ending points of the process, or the physical or digital boundaries of a workspace. And once the boundaries are solidified, we identify the process owner, the person who is ultimately responsible for the performance of the area and who has the ability to approve changes. The first step in 5S is sort. Claire, why do we start with sort and not with shine?
Shine's about cleaning, and we don't want to clean our garbage.
Well said. This is about getting rid of those things that we don't need, the unnecessary clutter, and about identifying how often we need access to the things that we do need. The sort step is about finding waste hidden in things like excess tools and equipment, outdated information like documents, manuals, and samples. Unnecessary furniture, stuff like carts, desks, chairs, cabinets. We've filled up a lot of bins over the years. In a digital workspace, we are sorting or removing programs, applications, and files from your desktop that you simply do not use any longer. Once you take inventory of everything you actually do need, you'll be surprised at what you can get rid of.
Here's a question for you. What's in the box?
A box?
I don't know. Whatever it is must be really important because I've traveled with it, moved it from house to house to house, and I've stored it every step along the way. Sound familiar? Did you know that companies are using 3 times the space that they used about 50 years ago? And yet we still run out of space to store stuff. Typically, we hold on to unnecessary things because we can. Sorting is important because it allows us to utilize our space, time, cost, energy, and other resources more effectively. It reduces problems and interruptions to our workflow and improves communication between workers. Sorting improves productivity and the quality of our work. So how do we sort? Typically, we start with a sorting event. A sorting event is not a random event. The timing and the team are carefully planned. The only people who should be working on a 5S in the area are those who work in that area on a regular basis. You'd never go into someone else's area and do a 5S. That would be a disaster. Anyone who's participating in this sorting event will be prepared and trained so they understand the objectives and the process. The idea is that the employees who work in the area participate and go through each item in the area. The workers remove all items not needed for the current process, leaving only the bare essentials. The team asks questions about the items such as, what is this? What's it used for? How long has it been here? Why is it full of dust? When's the last time you used it? How about you? Where is it used? Where does it get used the most? How is it used and why is it here? Whether physical or virtual, a holding area, often called a red tag holding area, needs to be established to hold on to these items that are identified as potentially redundant or unnecessary until a final decision has been made within a specified time frame. The red tag area will have an owner who's responsible for emptying it after a decided due date. The time in between is used for other workers to verify that the red tag area items are no longer used. These items will be disposed of in some way, sold, given away, or thrown away.
The term red tag comes from the traditional lean method that incorporates the use of a physical paper red tag to clearly identify those items in question. The items are either removed to the holding area, or if they are too big to move, they get a red tag. You'll see that there is some basic info on the tag about the item. Alternatively, some organizations use a can of red spray paint to mark redundant items that are too large to move to the holding area. In the digital workplace, we can create a file to hold documents or apps that can potentially be deleted. The essential part of the sort phase is that there must be an action plan. For items that have been put in a holding area or red tagged, there must be a plan to make a final decision about its disposition, and then to take the action necessary to remove it. Too often during this phase, items are sorted out and then they remain indefinitely in another area. Effectively, we've just moved the waste. We haven't eliminated it.
Here's a general guideline for what to do with the items based upon how often it's used. In the sorting step, we're focused on those items that are never used. If it's not ever used, it can be deleted, given away, or thrown away. The remainder of the dispositions depend on how often it's used. The more frequently that it's used, the closer it needs to be to the users. And determining the best location for these items will be addressed in the third step when we set in order.
The sort and set in order step are very closely related. In the sort step, we are evaluating the need for each item, and in the set in order step, we'll decide the best place to keep that item. In your CANSOL templates, you have a one-page job aid to help you sort. The job aid includes the purpose of the sort step, the actions or highlights of the step, and the resources that you'll need. There's also a checklist to make sure that the step is done correctly. This job aid can be a huge help when you are engaging a team of workers who are not necessarily familiar with continuous improvement. It makes the step very clear so that everyone can effectively participate.
The shine stage of 5S focuses on cleaning the work area and preventing any type of dirt or debris from entering the area in the first place. We do this through identifying sources of contamination and then minimizing or eliminating these through good problem solving. Shine also involves initiating and performing regular planned maintenance on equipment and machinery that was previously neglected and allowed to become dirty or run down.
Cleaning with purpose. Why? It's like washing your car. When you wash it yourself, you will notice the state of the tires, perhaps an oil leak if it's a Ford, or even new scratches. Now that you're aware of this, you can actually go and do something about it. Same goes for cleaning equipment. I was once involved with a 5S on a bottle filler, and after cleaning it basically fell apart. That was the funniest thing. The technicians still believe that the dirt was the only thing holding it all together. It got fixed and actually ran so much better afterwards, and they even painted it. In a digital space, shine means keeping your computer drive and desktop clean and tidy. Turn off all those notifications you get from Facebook, Twitter, news feeds, your personal inbox, and so on.
Why is cleanliness important in our workspace? Because our workplace is where we spend 1/3 of our lives. For some people, keeping things neat and tidy is a real challenge. For others, it comes naturally. For every messy person in the world, there's someone who thrives on keeping things orderly and clean. When it comes to running a highly efficient and effective process, isn't there room for both personality types? The answer is no. Cleanliness is more than something to aim for. Keeping a clean workplace not only saves time and costs, but it also protects our health and well-being. A clean and efficiently run work area improves the quality of work and makes for happier and more productive employees.
When was the last time you needed that grime or dust? How helpful is that keyboard with the crumbs in between the keys? Did you know that the typical office desk is home to more than 10 million bacteria? That's 400 times more than a bloody toilet seat. Beyond the health concerns, this has an impact on our mental state. Humans have a built-in disgust response to dirty environments. A clean workplace has also been shown to reduce sick days and increase productivity. People attending work while sick adds to the spread of disease and costs billions of dollars each year through lost productivity. We are actually not as clean as we think we are. American researchers conducting a 13-month study found 4,800 surfaces in office buildings were officially dirty. Taps, microwaves, computer keyboards, and fridge doors were the dirtiest surfaces. This is especially of concern given the rise of open plan and shared desk environments. Workers in open plan spaces have a 62% higher incidence of sickness than those in private or shared cellular offices. Etiquette in shared desk workplaces requires employees to clean down their workstation and equipment when they finish using it. However, less than half of employees actually comply.
So the objective of the shine step is to make sure that the work area is free of debris. All areas in need of cleaning are exposed and we keep everything clean every day. This allows us to turn the workplace into a clean, bright place where everyone will enjoy working and to keep things ready to be used when needed. An unclean atmosphere that leads to poor morale and inefficient work is also a place where defects are less obvious. And equipment or tools that don't receive sufficient maintenance tend to break down and cause defects and delays.
So how do we shine? How is it done? We look over, under, above every area to find hidden dirt and debris and sources of contamination, the root cause of why the area gets dirty. In the shine step, the team determines how a shine schedule should be done and how to prevent the spread of dirt, by making sure it doesn't enter the work area in the first place. The idea is to identify small problems early on so that we minimize the amount of time that we actually have to clean. Each area and piece of equipment should be equipped with adequate cleaning supplies. Shine should not be left for a cleaning crew. We should treat cleaning as an inspection process and use it to identify any, even tiny, abnormal or unacceptable conditions. The goal is to find ways to keep the workplace clean by eliminating sources of dirt as early as possible. You work in an area. It is not the cleaning crew's responsibility to ensure your area is at standard. It is also a source of pride and sometimes a bit of friendly competition. Incentives can be offered to teams and individuals who outperform each other.
And just like with the sort step, we have a one-page job aid to help you and your team through the shine step. The purpose, the action highlights, and the resources needed for this step are at the top. And the bottom portion provides a checklist and tips for this phase.
Set in order is the step where we identify as a team what and how much belongs where, so that everyone has the tools and information easily accessible and ready to go when they need them. This step is a pretty big deal. It's a way for the team to start a positive cultural shift to create deliberate ways of working, and the discipline to own those changes and create momentum that will drive positive change in the workplace. We have sorted out the things that are not needed, and we've cleaned everything that will remain. Now it's time to assign a place for all those programs, applications, files, and tools or equipment that we use on a regular basis. Files are organized by subject, department, project, or date. Tools and physical equipment or supplies are organized by how often it is needed and how accessible it needs to be.
For example, when you drive your car, you know it's time to refill your gas tank when it reaches a certain point. You get a warning that it's time to refuel. Most people don't keep excess gasoline containers stored in the trunk of their car. That's a big part of this step, to evaluate not only what needs to be where, but how much. So if we work at a hospital, we'd have to determine where do we need IV stands? How many need to be there? Does every bed need an IV stand? What about specialized cardiac monitors? Where do those belong? How often are they used and where?
Supply rooms are a great way to relate to the importance of this step in 5S. For those items that we don't need regularly at every individual workstation, a supply room is there as a shared source. But that only works if what we need is there when we need it. And many times, this is not the case. More often than not, supply rooms get raided and people hoard the supplies because they have learned that they can't trust the supplies to be there when they need them.
Take a look at this series of numbers and let's see how long it takes you to find the missing numbers. Start now. Okay, 5 seconds. And 10 seconds. Find the missing numbers yet?
Need some more time?
Let's set our numbers in order and see how long it takes you to identify the missing numbers.
Let's try again. And in less than a second, you identified that 13 and 30 are missing. The importance of setting in order is that we can find what we need and we can tell when something is wrong or when something is missing.
Think about setting an order in everyday life. When you go to the grocery store, you don't have to ask questions to find out what to do with your car. You don't need to ask for help to determine how close it should be to the other cars. It's obvious and orderly, and you can clearly see where there's an open space.
Another example is what we are looking at here. It's a view from inside a prisoner's cell of the famous prison Alcatraz. What are the advantages of this tool called a shadow board? With things set in order, you know where to put things back, and more importantly, you know when something's missing.
In this phase, we arrange needed items so that they are easy to use. Items are organized or labeled so that anyone can find them and put them away. It's all about the saying, a place for everything and everything in its place. The basic focus of this part of 5S is to create effective and efficient storage systems so that anyone can find the tools, materials, supplies they need, and anyone can return those tools, materials, and supplies to their proper storage locations. What is needed, in the place it's needed, when it's needed.
This step could also be just called put away. Put things away in a logical storage location that makes commonly used tools and materials convenient and easy to access. Everything should have a purpose for being where it is, and in the right amount that is needed in. Setting our minimum and maximum levels of stock is very important. For example, there's no point in having 3 staplers on your desk. Have one if you need it often, put it away in the stationery cupboard if you don't use it that often. And nothing should seem out of place. Why is this important? This step is a foundation of standardization. It eliminates difficulty finding and putting things away. It improves morale by removing obstacles to productivity, inconsistency, poor quality, and inefficiencies.
When determining where things go, it's a great idea to focus on minimizing motion and transportation. Additional steps are great for our health, but let's save those extra steps for our free time. At work, excess steps are frustrating and inefficient. Some of the tools that we can use in this phase are a spaghetti map to document the flow, and we can use a pedometer or a tape measure to measure and then minimize distance and motion.
Floors become very important in the set and order step as well. In a visual workplace, floors do not exist simply to walk on or hold things up. They function, showing us where it's safe to walk, where materials are, and where we are supposed to work. Every section of the floor, every bench, work surface, hand tool, part, machine, rack, cabinet, and bin can be equipped to make a contribution to a greater purpose that is beyond its main use. Because now that item can visually communicate vital information to anyone and everyone who needs it as they need it. There are no exemptions.
We can ask questions such as, where would visual answers be useful? How can we make work visible? How can we make problems visible? Our goal is to make work visible and to make problems visible as well. We can use storage solutions like cabinets, shelves, and labels to make items easy to get and easy to put away. The idea is to go from hiding to exposing. Use open shelving where possible. If you must use closed storage, place a photo of what's in there on the outside of the container so it's not hidden. Or even better, take the doors off the cupboards so we can see what we have. In this example here, everything looks nice and tidy, but we have no idea what's in the different storage containers. And in this type of setup, we can expect that those drawers and boxes will become junk catchers. And anyone looking for something will have to guess and hunt to find out where things are.
Stop whatever you're doing immediately and freeze. Now evaluate your body. Does anything, maybe your neck or your back, feel a little bit achy? How's your posture? And your wrists and fingers? Are they okay after sitting at your desk watching this video? Utilizing basic ergonomic guidelines can help in setting up a workspace. Most organizations have guidelines for employee health and safety, and these guidelines typically include ergonomics. Deciding where things belong should also account for health, safety, and comfort.
And organizing items for ease of use is not a one-time activity. Set doesn't mean set and forget. Item locations will likely be reset from time to time as employees exercise the new setup. Set and order is also an opportunity for us to go from each to their own to community shared spaces. Don't hoard your sticky notes in fear that someone else might steal them. Rather, have a communal system in place that gets replenished when minimum stock levels are reached.
To guide you through this step, the Set in Order job aid has 2 parts. One for planning and one for implementation. First, we plan it. We use a spaghetti diagram, measuring tape, pedometer, whatever you need. We identify proper locations based on how frequently the item is used, and we locate tools and materials that are used frequently next to the work area. We make work and problems visible, and we utilize storage solutions like cabinets, walls, and labels, or naming and filing conventions to make it obvious where things can be found and put away.
And now we enter the standardized step.
Ooh.
This is the step that ensures that the improved conditions that we made with the first 3 S's don't deteriorate back to how they were before. The standardized phase has to happen and be proven before moving to sustain. One of the biggest keys to a successful 5S is that it will only work if it's followed.
Standardize is definitely the most important part of 5S. Discipline is necessary to ensure consistency and so that we have the possibility of long-term success. If we can't standardize and sustain basic housekeeping, we will really struggle at solving more complex problems. The key is to describe a standard for the improvements that we made during sort, shine, and set in order. We'll sometimes hear that it's too hard to create standards, but if you can't describe a standard for what you are doing, you might have a bad procedure happening, or the hard truth is, you might not know what you're doing. The first three S's will provide a support system for standardize. By properly standardizing, we will create practices to support sort, shine, and set in order.
So how do we standardize? Well, first, we prioritize and schedule 5S tasks. For example, at the end of each workday, each person takes 15 minutes to perform small versions of the first three S's. At the end of the day, the workspace should be clear of items that don't belong there. Weekly tasks might be wiping down computer keyboards or equipment. Monthly tasks could be more detailed cleaning or sorting through materials and supplies in the area and discarding as needed. When the daily schedule is followed, we should only need to do major 5S activities once a month. Semi-annual events could involve sorting through desk drawers and discarding obsolete or outdated documents, waxing of floors and taping of aisles.
Next is assign. This is where responsibilities are integrated into regular work. It may take a few reminders, but before long, people will be starting their 5S steps without needing the reminders. This includes things like daily sweeping and cleaning and resources, supplies, and materials put away. Each person must contribute. This is a team sport, and we are all responsible for making the process a success.
Standardize for safety. One of the benefits of 5S is that it makes the workspace safer. Make sure that any safety equipment is available and in designated areas.
And audit. Not only employees, but supervisors and management should also be involved in the audit process. Every time we walk from one area to another is a perfect opportunity to audit the 5S along the way. We don't need to wait for the planned audit. It should occur anytime we are walking around, as long as you include the supervisor of that area. To show that we are serious about 5S, an audit must be performed on a regular basis. A daily walkthrough should be done to check basic level 5S is being maintained.
Now, in your workbook is a box for you to draw the face of a dog. Please pause the video now to draw a dog in the blank spot provided. And welcome back. It would be great to see all of your drawings, and I wonder how much variation we'd see in them.
Come on, show us.
And we'll come back to the dogs in a few moments. When we create standards for a specific work area, the way to communicate and maintain that standard is with a simple one-page document. In your templates file is a simple template that you can use to identify the area and the specific characteristics that define the standard. In this example, we have a facilities team who established 5 specific standards for this one storage area. There's an owner of the area who's responsible for making sure that the team keeps it up to standard. The rating of each standard is a simple yes or no. Up to standard gets a green, and not up to standard gets a red.
Working towards consistency, reducing variation, and eliminating waste. Standardize is all about making work consistent and good. These photos here show an example of standards posted in a common area as well as at each desk. The pictures identify how the specific area should look, and there is an owner and accountability for each area. It's very easy to see how each area should look, and more importantly, to determine whether something is out of order.
In your workbook, you have a simple 4-step instruction to draw a dog. Try this exercise again. Draw a dog in the blank space provided using the step-by-step instructions. Pause the video now and give it a try.
Come on, pause it. Okay, welcome back, guys. Just for fun, let's compare your 2 dogs. Come on, show us. The one from a couple of pages back to this one. And think about your confidence and speed and while drawing the first one without standards and this one with instructions or standards, you may have had a whole different idea of the objective. Maybe you drew a whole dog, legs, tail and all. Or maybe you drew a simple outline. Without knowing what the standard of what a good job looks like or what a good dog looks like, we can expect that if we asked 100 people to draw a dog, we'd get 100 completely different drawings. But with a standard in place, we can bet that the variation is dramatically improved. Pretty cool, huh?
And to help you keep all of this organized, we have the standardized job aid. In reality, when an organization or an area attempts 5S, the tendency is to complete the first 3 S's and then immediately move on to another area because of the excitement of the results after sort, shine, and set in order. And to be honest, the idea of the last 2 S's is just not as much fun. We have to try hard as possible to avoiding standardize and sustain. It's important to prepare for and to resist skipping these 2 steps. Otherwise, all of the effort so far will be for nothing. They'll be a waste. We'll have to redo our work, which is extra processing, and the first attempt at 5S will be a non-value added activity because it won't have been done right the first time.
The final step in 5S is sustain. And if we can't sustain it, then it has very little value. Before we can move on to other areas or to solve bigger or more complex issues in the organization, we need to prove or successfully demonstrate that we have the discipline to maintain and sustain our 5S system.
Sustaining is all about great habits. It's not something to be added on top of daily work, but should become routine and part of the work. A really great 5S is transparent, meaning that it occurs just by our daily activities and tasks. 5S and sustaining are not events. It's a habit that's effectively integrated with our people and our processes. It's embedded into our daily work.
We often use the last 2 steps of 5S to determine whether a team or an organization has what it takes to achieve real results. Developing the discipline in our work allows our processes to reach their full potential, and this is really important. Our processes need to be robust. Our customers have varying demands. We have constant changes and challenges. And in order to be able to keep our customers delighted while running efficiently, we've got to do these basics very, very well. The sustain step is about creating a culture to support your 5S system. In this step, we make a habit of properly maintaining correct procedures. We no longer accept the dark, dirty, dingy, disorganized workplace that results in lower morale.
So what do these good habits look like? Well, it means that we reinforce 5S with regular meetings. We keep employees updated on improvements. We keep employees involved. We solicit ideas to improve, and we evaluate our results and our progress.
And in your templates file, it is a job aid for the sustain step of 5S. This step is about leadership support, team engagement, and great communication, all crucial to sustaining an organized workplace. This step includes idea sharing, benchmarking with other areas, inside or outside the business, presenting successes and results, visiting other sites or departments, and supporting the regular assessment to identify areas for further improvement.
A little side note to leadership. When visiting a 5S area, instead of focusing on the 5S score, ask what improvements the team has been thinking about and executing since its last audit. That's a better indicator to the level and quality of collaborative energy for improvement than a 5S score.
We've mentioned that a key part of sustaining a 5S system is a regular audit or assessment. The purpose of the assessment is to stay on top of the improvements and, with each assessment, to recognize even more ways to improve. Going through the assessment with the employees in the area is also a great way to identify their concerns and to get their input and ideas.
This form, as with our other templates, can be used electronically or it can be printed out. The assessment consists of an area for each of the 5 S's, and each area has 4 descriptors. Each descriptor is rated on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 is the worst and 5 is world class. There's a notes section in each area to capture specifics to provide details to support the scoring for that section. The light green fields, where the score is input, is a simple drop-down of 0 through 5. And when the scores are entered for each descriptor, the average for that section will be calculated and displayed to the right. Up at the top is the overall score for all 5 S's.
Performing a regular assessment is the key to sustaining and growing your 5S efforts. Posting the assessment results and tracking the progress is a great energizer for the team. Sometimes it takes looking back at how things were to really appreciate the significant improvements that have been made over several months.
Everyone should look after their own areas. The risk of relying only on formal assessments is that they don't always drive the best behavior, as people may let things go until it's time for the assessment, and that's not the point. If you consider that the definition of 5S roughly is everything in its place, clean and ready for use, then any departure from this standard is something to be addressed. 5S isn't only about audits. It's also about establishing a clear expectation for what's required for the work and a visual check to make sure those things are present, where they should be, and serviceable. Incorporating informal assessments into our routine should become a natural part of your 5S system. It means that we go to the work area, find something, anything, and simply ask a couple questions. Does this belong here? Is it ready to use? Would it be obvious to new employees or visitors? A no or a not sure answer means that we need to correct the situation. And any confusion or ambiguity is a clue that we could use some visual controls.
It's sometimes easier to think of using 5S in a physical workspace, but 5S is a great way to optimize a digital workplace as well. We can apply the same principles, but first they have to map the physical and digital environments. A physical workplace is where an employee or a work group performs a set of related or similar operations. This organization of the physical space will be visually obvious. In a digital workplace, we also have a workplace where similar tasks are being performed. Let's say that we are a customer support rep for a credit card division of a bank. We can service our customers right from our laptop or our phone.
We should be able to quickly and accurately provide customers with information related to their credit card, or to request a new credit card, to replace an expired or stolen card, or to cancel one, or to issue a statement. To do this, we need quick access to the right tools and the right information. That's not always what we find. Many times, organizations assume that every employee will figure out how to find the information they need to properly perform a task. This makes it rather complicated for the employee and ultimately generates errors, costs, and delays.
So what can we do better in our digital workspaces? 5S focuses on each individual workplace within the company and makes sure each is well organized so the worker can be as productive as possible. For each task, the digital worker needs to know how to do the work: forms, procedures, manuals, FAQs, support contacts, etc., and which application to use, preferably with a link to that app. Let's talk through how our 5S's might look in a digital workspace.
Okay, sorting, or removing programs, applications, and files from your desktop that you don't need or that you don't use any longer. Once you take inventory of everything you actually do need, you'll be surprised at what you can get rid of. Shine. Keep your computer drive and desktop clean and tidy. Turn off all unnecessary notifications. Think about systems that receive junky data, incomplete fields, or numeric fields that are all nines because the data didn't properly import. Data cleansing is a whole topic on its own, but the Shine step of 5S asks you to think about cleaning the data and preventing the junk from getting into your system in the first place. Set in order. Assign a place for all those programs, applications, and files that you do use on a daily basis. Organize your files and folders by subject, department, project, or fiscal month and year. Standardize by keeping your desktop drives and shared files consistently named and stored. Above all, sustain and maintain all of these organizational and performance practices so you can continue to thrive and succeed for years to come.
Deciding to implement 5S in your work area requires some planning to do it well. In your templates is a 5S planner that guides you to complete the necessary prep before you jump right into the S's. We know you can't wait. In this form, the light yellow cells are for you to fill in information, and the light green cells provide a drop-down list. Up at the top, we have the area or process name and the process owner, the person who has the authority to approve changes. And there is also a spot to capture the starting and ending points of the process, or to solidify the boundaries of the physical workspace. The schedule has the major milestones of the 5S implementation with a simple Gantt chart format to identify when the team anticipates the completion of each milestone. In this section, add the dates at the top and then just select the check mark from the drop-down to create the Gantt chart schedule. The next section is to define the team and who will do what. For the team, you can consider including people from outside the area too. People from other areas that might be next to implement 5S are a good idea, as they will then have some experience when it comes to implementing it in their own areas. Identify the people who can influence or will be affected by a 5S in the work area to round out the team. The next section is about supplies. Having supplies ready will save time searching for last-minute items. Use the drop-down list or customize it if you have different needs. Typically, changes made through 5S is either zero cost or very low cost. A small budget should be allocated for the team. Be sure to check this out with the area leadership though. Larger expenditures should go through normal approval channels and procedures.
A few more thoughts as we wrap up this module on 5S. Support from leadership and the area manager or supervisor from the beginning is critical. Their role is to lead the changes, to lead the improvements. By doing this, they become part of the future, part of the solution, instead of being like school hall monitors. It's their role to maintain organized standards, such as standards for labeling, naming, marking, color coding, etc. Otherwise, each 5S team implements differently, and the visual effect is a haphazard approach that could cause problems for everyone. And most importantly, they need to provide time for the improvements. The workforce cannot eke out snippets of time and make magic happen. When that happens, we end up attributing failure of 5S to inertia, flavor of the month, or difficulties in change management. Leaders must distinguish time for improvement from time for production and operations. Otherwise, improvement will only happen if it's pushed by leaders or if there is a structured event-based change.
It is important that the workers in the area own their improvements and become responsible for the continual improvement of it. The role of the team is to maintain 5S by continually monitoring and improving on the standards. They need to show the benefits like time or efficiency or accuracy. They can track and show results and find savings. And then share and promote the improvements. The team can invite managers, supervisors to participate in meetings and encourage them to be actively engaged in audits and reviews of before and after summaries. It's important to share ideas and communicate with upper levels who can carry your messages forward. Take leaders and people from other areas on a tour of your work area. Show them what has changed. Talk about your accomplishments and explain how your team accomplished success. Work closely with supervisors and managers to identify current results and to identify what additional problems could be resolved with 5S.
5S is the first of multiple improvement methods, and while it won't solve all issues, it can be a great foundation for teams to learn disciplined problem solving, and it's a great gateway for other improvement tools. Through 5S, processes become standardized. Problems and abnormalities will be more obvious. Employee ideas for improvement will be stimulated, and it makes the need for greater problem-solving skills even more apparent. And it's all summarized here for you in the one-point lesson. 5S is not easy, but with this training and the corresponding job aids and reference materials, you'll be ready to take on this foundational improvement tool and to experience great success.